I just saw Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny at the movies today, and I have to say I was pleasantly surprised by how good it was in spite of the mixed reviews coming out. I decided I wanted to do a movie review where this time I look at the quality of the movie itself and how accurate it was with the historical and archaeological elements. As a heads up, there will be spoilers in this review. What I really enjoyed about this installment of Indiana Jones is how the plot returns to what made the Raiders of the Lost Ark so great, which was an emphasis on actual ancient archaeological artifacts and sites that real archaeologists have discovered or continue to excavate. Obviously, in the original, the plot centered around the Ark of the Covenant, the legendary biblical chest that held the Ten Commandments. In Dial of Destiny, the plot centers around the Antikythera mechanism, an ancient Greek device that measured the movements of the planets and stars, predicted eclipses, movements of the sun and moon, and the yearly calendar cycle. Having an archaeological artifact, whether legendary or not, be at the center of both these Indiana Jones movies really gives the plots a sense of intrigue, not to mention it gets people interested in ancient history and archaeology. The artifact's role in the respective films leads to cross-national adventures involving different countries, in the same manner as a classic adventure film. I thought the opening sequence, which takes place during World War II, really set the background for Indy's search for the Antikythera mechanism. Indiana Jones and his friend and fellow archaeologist from Oxford University find the Antikythera mechanism only for the Nazis to take it from them, which is followed by an intense, action-packed train fight. Indy and the archaeologist from Oxford end up regaining the Antikythera mechanism after the Allies bomb the train the Nazis were on. Flash forward 25 years, and we see that Indiana Jones is a professor at Hunter College. I thought that the film's use of hints to allude to the time and setting was well done, as you really feel the atmosphere of the late 60s. Whether it be Indy getting woken up by students blasting the Beatles, faculty viewing the moon landing on TV, or protests in the streets, the audience will definitely know the film is now set in 1969. I thought it was great that the audience gets to see Salah for the first time since The Last Crusade, in addition to several other characters that will make their return as well. It turns out Shia LaBeouf's character has died while enlisted in the Vietnam War, which some of you on the internet may be thrilled about, others of you maybe not so much. On the other hand, since the Indiana Jones franchise has been around for over 40 years now, and it has been 15 years since the last movie came out, the screenwriters obviously needed to introduce a few new characters. One of these new characters is Helena Shaw, goddaughter of Indiana Jones and current archaeology graduate. I thought she was a solid new character who has a few similarities with Indy, such as knowledge of archaeology and the ability to fight and defend herself. She is by no means a Mary Sue because the audience definitely gets to see her major flaws. I thought her character also drove the plot in the beginning and middle of the film in a way that makes sense. You have to keep in mind that Indiana Jones at this point is no longer globe-trotting and treasure hunting or searching for lost artifacts, and is about to retire from his position as a professor of archaeology at Hunter College. Helena stealing the Antikythera mechanism from Indy results in him being pulled back into a treasure hunt style adventure to get one half of the Antikythera mechanism back from her, and to find the other half in Sicily, which is a great way to bring Indy out of retirement, so to speak. I enjoyed the dynamic between Indy and Helena, one because at first you see that they have very different goals with regards to archaeological artifacts, especially the Antikythera mechanism. Indy, on the one hand, believes that it should be in a museum like the Ark, while Helena wants to sell it in an illegal artifacts trade in Morocco for personal reasons. You also get the dynamic of the old archaeologist versus the new up-and-coming archaeologist. I also enjoyed the rivalry between Indiana Jones and Jordan Bowler, as it is fairly reminiscent of the rivalry between Indy and Belloc in The Raiders of the Lost Ark, the American versus the Nazi archaeologist, although in this case Bowler is a physicist who works with NASA. One surprise that I did not see coming that I absolutely loved was when Bowler and the Nazis have both pieces of the Antikythera mechanism. They attempt to use it to calculate when a fissure in time will appear that will take them back to the beginning of World War II in 1939. What ends up happening is the fissure in time takes the plane the Nazis and Indy are in back to the Roman siege of Syracuse in 214 BCE. Now let's take a look at the archaeological and historical accuracies or inaccuracies. The artifact being sought after in this film, the Antikythera mechanism, was a real device that dates back to the 3rd or 2nd century BCE. The film, specifically the character of Helena, rightfully states that the Antikythera was found in a Roman shipwreck in 1900 by Greek sponge divers. Obviously, there is zero evidence that it can calculate when fissures in time will appear, although this inaccuracy does make for an interesting plot. As stated before, the Antikythera measured the movements of the planets and stars, predicted eclipses, the movements of the sun and moon, and the yearly calendar cycle. It also provided the names and schedules for the Pan-Hellenic games such as the Olympic and Pythian games. Also, Archimedes did not invent the Antikythera, as the actual inventor is not known. A case could be made that the reason why the movie portrayed Archimedes as the inventor is because the place of origin for the Antikythera could have possibly been Syracuse, but in reality it was most likely that the island of Rhodes. It is possible the screenwriters could have mixed up the sphere of Archimedes with the Antikythera because some scholars originally thought that the Antikythera was similar to the Archimedes sphere. But scholar Derek DeSola Price pointed out that the device is not similar to the Archimedes sphere because it's too weak, too flat, and too big, along with zero evidence that the water powered the device. The movie does get Archimedes' role in the siege of Syracuse right, as the film correctly explains Archimedes devised mirrors to reflect the sunlight in order to burn Roman ships, and the Syracusan army ended up using these in battle. A tablet containing clues or codes that lead to the Antikythera and Archimedes' tomb was found by Indiana's crew on a Roman shipwreck. It was stated that it could have been written in linear B or Polybius square. It would not make sense, though, for the tablet to be written in linear B, as that was the script of the Mycenaeans and dates back to the late Bronze Age. The language that Archimedes would have spoken was ancient Greek. After the heroes managed to escape the Nazis with the tablet, they sail for the ear of Dionysus. This is an actual site in Sicily and was dug during the Greco-Roman times as a place for water storage. But in reality, Archimedes was not buried there and there is no statue of Athena within the cave. When the characters traveled back in time to the siege of Syracuse, I thought the Roman warships were accurate and the siege was depicted well. I didn't see any inaccuracies with how the city of Syracuse was depicted. The walls looked good, as far as I remember. The port looked pretty good. I will say the clothing that Archimedes was depicted in seems to be a little anachronistic because he seems to be depicted wearing clothing from late antiquity rather than the Hellenistic era. In reality, Archimedes probably wore an exalmus or chiton. Obviously, I didn't expect this installment of Indiana Jones to be 100% historically and archaeologically accurate because the writers are going to take some liberties. Raiders of the Lost Ark wasn't 100% accurate either. One glaring inaccuracy was the location of the Well of Souls, which was placed in Egypt when in reality it was located in Jerusalem. To sum up, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny was a solid finale to the Indiana Jones series. It recaptured what made the Raiders of the Lost Ark so special, having a real-life sought-after ancient artifact be central to the plot, international adventure and a backdrop of famous ancient civilizations, and thrilling chase and action sequences. There were things that the movie got right in terms of archaeology, but clearly not every single aspect was 100% accurate. I would recommend this movie if you're nostalgic for the old Indiana Jones movies or are in the mood for a new archaeological adventure film.